With Language 3, you will develop the skills you need to actually speak the language.
In Spanish, we add endings to make the verb match the subject of the sentence. This is just the person or thing the sentence is about. What endings we will plug to the verb will depend on whether the verb ends with ar, si el verbo termina en ar, for example, trabajar, to work, caminar, to walk, hablar, to speak or to talk, tomar, to take, estudiar, to study. So if the verb ends with ar, we will plug some endings. But if the verb ends with er, for example, comer, to eat, beber, to drink, correr, to run, we will add other endings. And if the verb ends with ir, for example, ir, to go, vivir, to live, dormir, to sleep, we will add other endings. So if the verb ends with ar, for example, trabajar, to work, we do like this. Yo trabajo, tú trabajas, él trabaja, ella trabaja, nosotros trabajamos, ustedes trabajan, ellos trabajan. Please notice that there is a pattern. So for yo, we just plug an O at the end of the verb. For example, trabajar, yo trabajo. Cocinar, to cook, yo cocino. Estudiar, to study, yo estudio. If the verb ends with ar and you have a tú, you just plug the as ending at the end of the verb. For example, trabajar, tú trabajas. Estudiar, tú estudias. You plug an a in the third person. For example, él trabaja. But it would also be él cocina. For example, he cooks. Él cocina. Amos is the ending for we, for nosotros. So for example, nosotros cocinamos, we cook. Nosotros trabajamos, we work, and so on. And for both ustedes and ellos, we use the same ending, which is an. For example, ustedes trabajan, you guys work. Ellos cocinan, they cook. Remember, this happens if the verb ends with ar. Now, if the verb ends with er or ir, the endings are different. Let's check the verb comer, which is to eat. Yo como, I eat. Tú comes, you eat. Él come, ella come. He eats, she eats. Nosotros comemos, we eat. No, ustedes comen, ellos comen, they eat. For verbs ending with ir, the endings are almost the same. You have yo vivo, I live. Tú vives, you live. Él vive, ella vive. He lives, she lives. Nosotros vivimos, we live. Ustedes viven, ellos viven. So again, we have a pattern here. Both verbs ending with ar and ir share the same pattern or almost the same pattern. O, es, hemos for or imos for verbs ending with ir, en. So basically you have two ways to do this. As you have to learn it by heart, you have two possible strategies. You can learn the patterns, for example, for ar, o, as, a, amos, an. You can learn that. And the second pattern, which is o, es, hemos, en. That's strategy number 1. But the second strategy, which is what I recommend you to do, is to learn one regular verb. Only one regular verb. Ar, I recommend you to take trabajar, and you just learn yo trabajo, tú trabajas, él trabaja, nosotros trabajamos, ustedes trabajan, ellos trabajan. You learn that sequence, and then when you see any regular verb, you will apply just the same ending, just the same pattern. Then I recommend you to learn comer for the verbs. So, yo como, tú comes, él, ella come, nosotros comemos, ustedes comen, ellos comen. And finally, a verb representing the ir group. In this case, vivir, to live. Yo vivo, tú vives, él, ella vive, nosotros vivimos, ustedes viven, ellos viven. This is the best way because you're learning an actual verb and all the conjugation, and all you have to do, or all you will have to do in case you want to use any other verb, is to apply the same pattern. Okay? Now, the uses of the present, usos del presente. We have 5 main uses. Acciones habituales, it means things that usually happen. La hora, the time. Pedir o dar información, which is to give or ask for information. Verdades universales, universal truth. And the future, okay? El futuro. So let's begin with acciones habituales, things that usually happen, repeatedly happen. For example, yo siempre voy al cine con mi hermana. Siempre means always, so I always go to the movie theater with my sister. Yo nunca como pescado. Yo nunca como pescado. Nunca is exactly the opposite, never, so I never eat fish. Yo nunca como pescado. Besides siempre and nunca, you can also use other words or expressions to talk about a frequency. For example, todos los lunes, every Monday. Yo estudio todos los lunes. I study every Monday. Yo descanso los sábados. Yo descanso los sábados. Or you can also use the present tense to talk about things that usually happen, but as a question. For example, ¿qué haces tú usualmente los domingos? ¿Qué haces tú usualmente los domingos? What do you usually do on Sunday? The second use is la hora. En español usamos el verbo ser en presente para dar la hora. Son las 3 de la tarde. Son las 3 de la tarde. Son las 4 de la mañana. 4 in the morning. Son las 2:30 de la tarde. Son las 6:20. Or son las 9:24. All of them in present tense. We also use it to talk about universal or general truths. For example, el agua de mar es salada. The sea is salty. El sol es una estrella. The sun is a star. El cielo es azul. El cielo es azul. The sky is blue. So these are general truths, and we use the present tense to talk about them. Now, fortunately, besides the more complex future tenses we have in Spanish, we can also use the present tense to talk about it. But we have to fulfill one condition, and it is we have to use a word that makes clear we are talking about the future. For example, mañana, which is tomorrow, mañana, or la semana que viene, el mes que viene, el año que viene. We have to use a word that makes clear we're talking about the future. If not, people will think you are talking about the present. So, let me give you a couple examples. Mañana voy a la fiesta de Juan. Mañana voy a la fiesta de Juan, which is tomorrow I go to Juan's party. La semana que viene salgo para Madrid. Next week I leave for Madrid. So you can use a word in future, for example, mañana, la semana que viene, etc., plus the present tense, and you will be conveying the idea of future. And finally, you can pedir y dar información. Pedir y dar información, to give and to ask for information using the present tense. For example, ¿quién es esa mujer? ¿Quién es esa mujer? Who is that woman? The answer, ella es María. Or, ¿cuándo llega el tren? ¿Cuándo llega el tren? When does the train arrive? Llega a las 3:30. Or, another question. ¿Dónde está el hospital? ¿Dónde está el hospital? Where is the hospital? Está a 100 metros hacia la izquierda. 100 metros hacia la izquierda. To the left. Or hacia la derecha. To the right. ¿Por qué estás tan cansado? ¿Por qué estás tan cansado? Why are you so tired? Por el trabajo. And finally, ¿qué haces? That is a very common question in Spanish. ¿Qué haces? Literally translates, what are you doing? Estoy cocinando la cena. I'm cooking dinner. In the next lesson, we are going to study the irregular verbs in present tense. Thank you for taking our lesson, and until next time.
Do it well with Language 3.